started with the section A, thermodynamics part 3, and we covered the second law of thermodynamics, the definitions, need for the law, different statements, and I also introduced you with the Carnot's cycle. Now coming to the introduction of the second law, it is concerned with the development of the theoretical aspects of heat engines, especially with the Carnot cycle, and it also states that the processes occurs in the definite direction, which was not given by the first law. That is, it tells about the spontaneity of the process, whether a process is going to occur or not. Thirdly, the processes which satisfies the first law does not mean that they are definitely going to occur. So there was a need of another principle. What was basically the first law? The first law stated that the heat is a form of energy, and thermodynamic processes are therefore subject to the principle of conservation of energy. That is, the energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, it can only be transferred from one form to another. So this was the definition of the first law, and it is purely a result of experience. There are other statements for the first law. I am not going through these statements, you already know these statements. The mathematical formulation of the first law is delta U is Q plus W, and for small changes we can write delta Q is du plus P dV. Now there were certain limitations of the first law. The major limitations was that it merely indicated that in any process there is an exact equivalence between various forms of energy, but it does not provide any information concerning the feasibility of the process. Feasibility means whether a process is going to occur or not. This was never told by the first law. For example, it does not indicate whether the heat will flow from a cold end to a hot end or not. All it will tell whether if the process has occurred or not, and the heat energy gained by one end would be exactly equal to that lost by other end. Also, the first law does not tell whether a gas can diffuse from low pressure to high pressure or water can run uphill. So it could only tell whether a process has occurred or not and what are the heat energy gained or lost during the process. So the second law supplied the answer to these questions by stating that all spontaneous processes like flow of heat from hot end to cold end, diffusion of gas from high pressure to low pressure, and flow of water down a hill are thermodynamically irreversible process, and they are spontaneous processes. So they occur by themselves. That is, the diffusion of gas from high pressure to low pressure, it will occur on its own. It does not require external agency. Similarly, flowing of the water down the hill is a spontaneous process, natural process. It occurs by its own. We do not have to supply any force, or we do not have to do a work for this to occur. Now, according to the first law, the total energy of the system remains conserved, but Joule's experiment showed that heat cannot be completely converted into work, while the work can be completely converted into heat. So these two are not interchangeable forms of energy. So there was a requirement of another law, that is the second law, which stated that the complete conversion of heat into work is impossible without leaving some effects elsewhere. So whenever the heat is converted into work, some of it is lost. So this lost heat either produces some effect elsewhere, or this heat is discarded. There was another definition of the second law. It stated that it is impossible to construct a machine functioning in cycles which can convert heat completely into equivalent amount of work without producing some changes elsewhere. There was another definition which stated that without the use of external agency, heat cannot itself pass from colder body to hotter body. So whenever a reverse of a natural process has to be done, that is transfer of heat from a cold body to hot body, we need an external agency, or external work should be done to transfer the heat from a cold body to hot body. Similarly, we have to make the water run uphill. We need to apply some pressure, we need to do some work to move the water from downhill to uphill. So it will require a lot of work to be done. But flowing of water from uphill to downhill is natural, spontaneous process. For the reverse process, we need to have an external agency to do this work. This was given by the second law. Then we came to the efficiency of a machine. So this machine can be any machine. the efficiency is given by work done by the heat absorbed. So this can be any machine, like we talked about an example like our cell phone. If suppose it is taking a charging for 10 hours but it does not give a work output even for 1 hour, then the efficiency is very low. That is, the battery is under damage and the efficiency has decreased a lot. So this machine, it is used for the conversion of heat into work, is called a heat engine. In order to bring about this conversion, engine absorbs the heat from the heat reservoir at a higher temperature called the source and converts a part of it into work and returns the remainder to the reservoir at low temperature called the sink. So these two heat reservoirs are important if we are talking about a heat engine, that is the source and the sink. Source is at a high temperature, so it supplies the heat. Sink is at a lower temperature, so it absorbs the remaining heat. Then coming to the Carnot's principle for the second law, it was given by the French engineer Nicolas Sadi Carnot, and he introduced the concept of cyclic operation. He was the first one to study the principles of the second law of thermodynamics. He devised a technique called the Carnot cycle in order to calculate the efficiency of a heat engine. A cyclic process is one in which the system returns to its original state after a number of successive changes. A process conducted in this manner is called cyclic process. The efficiency of a reversible Carnot cycle depends upon the temperature of two reservoirs and is the same whatever be the working substance. So what are these two temperature reservoirs? Can anyone tell me? There are two temperature reservoirs, source and the sink. So source is the one at higher temperature, sink is one at the lower temperature. So the Carnot cycle working or efficiency of this Carnot cycle will depend only on these two temperatures, and whatever be the working substance, it is independent of that. This we will see in today's lecture, how the efficiency depends only on the temperature